Hey everybody, it's Dave here from Dragonhill Games, and you're watching This Week in MTG Finance. As always, and before we get started, I want to thank MTG Stocks for allowing us to use graphical information for the purposes of this video. It's been a relatively slow week, and this generally happens this time of year as people shift their spending away from Magic the Gathering and just the collectible market in general, and aim that spending towards holiday shopping. Most of the winners on our list this week were either reserve list cards or collectible cards. However, of course, there were a few outliers like our number 10 winner. So let's dive right into our top 10 list, and we're going to start right here with Mindbreak Trap from Zendikar. Coming in at number 10 and up 28% this week to almost $18, Mindbreak Trap from Zendikar is one of those cards that just keeps rising and falling. And the reason for that is because it's really meta dependent. Mindbreak Trap sees a lot of play in sideboards in both Vintage and Legacy, and the reason for this is because it's an alternate to Force of Will, and it can also be played in decks that don't necessarily run blue as sideboard tech. It's a great combo breaker because you can exile any number of target spells for just 0 mana. And for that reason, it can definitely be sided in to decks that don't actually run blue. Although it's very situational, it's a great alternative to Force of Will. Skyline Despot took a little while to gain traction, but once it did, it basically has continued to climb over the course of the last couple of years. Our number 9 winner is up another 32% this week to just over $10.50. Now, this card has been getting a lot of attention in the last few weeks because of Jared Carthalion from Commander Legends. It's definitely an all-star in that deck. For 2 red mana and 5, we're getting a dragon that's a 5/5 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you're the monarch, you put a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Definitely a really good effect. It also slots really well into decks like Dragon. Now that Skyline Despot has been gaining so much value and hasn't had a reprint, I expect that we'll probably see a reprint of this next year. Our number 8 winner is up another 40% this week, and it's purely collector driven. That would be Aladdin's Lamp from Arabian Nights, valued at almost $95 now for the original Arabian Nights printing. Just not a great card. For 10 mana, we're getting an artifact that allows us to pay X and tap it and look at the top X cards of our library if we are going to draw, and we can replace our draw with one of those cards and put the rest on the bottom of our library. It sees almost no play over on EDH Rec. It appears in less than 50 decks, and those are probably just running it for the flash and fun factor. It's not a reserve list card. In fact, it's had a couple of other printings. You can pick up a 4th or revised edition printing for around 50 cents. And Stitch in Time is up another 40% this week in the number 7 spot to almost $10. Now, this is the Guild Pact version. In fact, this is just moving in line with the Guilds of Ravnica Guild Kit version, which is valued around the same $10 mark. We've talked about this card at length over the course of the last few weeks. Slots very well into Crack the Thumbless decks. And the fact that there's a limited supply of this card because it was printed so long ago and it only has a couple of printings are definitely contributing to its $10 price tag. Now, our number 6 winner this week is a card I really like to see on the list, and there's a few reasons for that. First of all, Ashnod's Altar's up another 42% this week to $23, and of course that's the original Antiquities printing. And the reason I say I really like to see this on the list is because here's a perennial Commander card that is both playable and collectible, and as an investor and a player, that's something that I particularly look for. I really love these old school cards with that thick, dark black border. They're really sharp. Ashnod's Altar's had quite a few printings over the years. They couldn't print this card enough to meet demand. It's always going to be a $5 to $10 card for any of the reprints that we get. In fact, the Mystery Booster printing, which was the most recent printing, is the second highest valued printing of this card, of course, behind the original Antiquities printing. Following the same logic, I really like seeing our number 5 winner on our list this week, and that's City of Brass, the original printing from Arabian Nights. This thing's up another 64% to $725, which is absolutely astounding considering how many times this card's been reprinted. But like Ashnod's Altar, no matter how many times it does get reprinted, the reprints are always going to have a ton of value. In fact, the lowest value printing of this card is still worth north of $15. Of course, this card gets played across multiple formats, typically in decks that want to win fast and don't care about losing life to tap City of Brass. They just want access to whatever color mana they happen to need. And of course, this slots well in many different commander decks. Our number 4 winner this week appears to be the target of a buyout, and that would be Jessica Warrior Add-Up. This thing is up 98% this week to $7.68. The only printing of this card was Judgment. Now, it's not on the reserve list, and there was a buyout attempt on this card earlier this year. The card really sees little or no play. In fact, over on EDH Rec, it appears in less than 10 decks. It's actually kind of a decent card, though, if you think about it. For 2 red mana and 2, you're getting a first strike haste 3/1 legendary barbarian. And of course, you can tap her to deal 1 damage to a creature or player. And although not the most effective way, you could definitely wipe out everyone on the table if you have some way to consistently untap her, something along the lines of Umbra Mantle or Staff of Domination. And of course, you need a bunch of mana behind that. Again, not the most effective way to go about killing everybody, and there's probably better ways to spend infinite mana, but it could be a backup plan for the right types of decks. Our number 3 winner is a bit of a nostalgic card, and that would be Mishra's Factory, specifically the winter printing from the original Antiquities. This thing's valued at $620, and it's up another 117% this week. Now, back in Antiquities, they printed 4 different art versions of this card. They had the winter version, which is definitely the most valuable, and then, of course, we had the summer, spring, and fall versions as well. This is something I wish that they would actually do in today's day and age. I'd love to see different variations of art on printings found in the regular pack versions. I'm not talking special, extended, and borderless sort of collector type printings. I'm just talking about I open a pack and which copy of this particular card did I happen to get, because there's a few different art printings of that card in the pack. It would make for a really enjoyable pack opening experience for someone like me that has been playing virtually since the game started. Coming in at number 2, Radiant Archangel from Urza's Legacy at $50 and up another 117%, has had a wild ride over the course of the last 4 months. In fact, in that time frame, it's had 5 separate and notable spikes, followed by some extreme drops in price after those spikes. In fact, we reached an all-time high on this card of $65 back on September 9th. And of course, this is a reserve list card. I don't have a whole lot to say about Radiant Archangel. It's not a great card. It has been appearing in a few separate decks. It is legendary, so it can definitely be a commander. But what is most likely leading to this price fluctuation is the fact that it is on the reserve list. And our big winner this week, up another 137%, is Totos Coffin from Antiquities, valued at almost $300. Here we have a situation of collector-driven demand on a card that's on the reserve list and just simply doesn't have much supply out there. Over on eBay, we're looking at under 10 copies. Most of them run for about $200 shipped to your door, and then they quickly jump up in price for graded copies from there. This one is definitely getting harder and harder to find. Alright, before I get into cards I'm investing in this week, as always, if you're a subscriber, you know I want to thank you for being here. I really appreciate your continued support. And if you're looking for another way to support this channel, you can head on over to our online marketplace, www.dragonhillgames.com, and the link for that is in the description of this video. We just posted our pre-orders for Kaldheim, including some sponsored boxes, so if that's something that interests you, go on and check that out. I really like Sliver Hive Lord from Mystery Boosters as our value pick for this week. At only $8, it's near an all-time low. And the original M15 printing is still valued well over $10. Slivers is one of those tribes that just keep cropping up from time to time, especially in things like Commander. And there's no reason to expect that this card won't get in line with the original M15 printing and continue to climb from there. Commander Collection Green brought us some much needed reprints. In fact, all of these cards can be picked up as singles for bargain basement prices. Getting your hands on a Sylvan library for under $37 is an absolute steal. This is a cross-format play card, sees a bunch of play in Legacy, and every other printing of this card is north of $55. There's no reason to think that this alternate art printing won't eventually catch up with all of the other versions of the card. I've been getting my hands on as many copies of Avenger of Zendikar as I can lately, especially the Commander Legends printing, priced at around $4, which is just half the price of all of the other printings, including the recent Double Masters printing. This is a perennial card for Commander, and there's no reason to expect that this version won't close the gap between all of the other printings. Alright, I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode of This Week in MTG Finance. If you did, go ahead and smash that like button. It really helps me out, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.